All right, I've had some student feedback asking about how to custom white balance underwater and what water filtration does to light the deeper you go. So what I did is I decided to head down to the pool and show you. And so here I am at the pool getting ready to go with my goggles, checking out my underwater camera. And what I did is I went online beforehand and I printed out this color card. Now I actually have the full version of this color card as a color checker passport that I use for all my portrait work. And you can check out my portrait photography class to see how I use it. But I went down to the store with this printout online, laminated it, and for 53 cents I had something that could give me primary colors plus neutral gray underwater so I can show you what happens to light and how to white balance for it. So I hope that gives you an idea of how you can make a white balance card. So we're going to start at 4 feet with a video here, and you can see at 4 feet primary colors are off, gray is off. Even at 5 feet, same thing, the reds are starting to duck out and look orange. The grays are off, my skin looks very blue. Here at 6 feet, you can see my skin tone starting to look very blue, as well as the color card showing some, very far deviations from the reds, true reds, and good white balance. It's just going to get worse here as we go to 7 feet, and I'm bluer and holding my breath longer each time. 8 feet for a bigger breath hold. Here we go. And down, under. Just watch my skin tones the deeper I go down here too, right? On the surface looks a little bit okay, and then the further I go down, down, down. Look at, I'm very blue, yellow. The card is off. There's nothing that looks white or right. 9 feet, it's just going to get worse here to show you. All right, so this is what's happening if you're shooting video or taking pictures underwater without correcting anything. The deeper you go, the further off your reds are. Now here I'm going to come up a little bit, and I'm going to watch my skin tones the closer I get to the surface. Did you see that? I went from blue to actual skin tones. Now at 10 feet, there I go down, and you can see my skin tones going from skin tone color to deathly pale blue, ashy, and then I'll show you the color card here. Reds are pretty much gone, right? Everything looks kind of orangey gray. Colors have no vibrancy. Imagine trying to take pictures of fish with those kind of colors. They're not going to turn out well. What I'd like to do now is show you how you can use Lightroom in order to custom white balance that color card to at least get good white balance and to restore the tonality of your picture even if you can't reintroduce reds. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is show you what the pictures actually look like that we took underwater with the color card. So we're going to start off at 10 feet, and you can see how very blue things are and how the reds, yellows, greens, and blues are all really pretty far off. Then we'll go to 9 feet. And you can see it's not as bad, but not that great. 8 feet. Progressively getting better, but a heavy blue tint to the whole thing and clearly not right. 7 feet. Slowly getting better, but noticeably off. 6 feet. Very blue still, but each foot getting a bit better. 5 feet. Just see for yourself there. Looks very off to me still. And 4 feet. Okay, there's 4 feet. And then because 3 and 2 and 1 were not labeled, it's 3, 2, 1, surface. And that's right what it should look like if it was properly balanced. Now, if you brought a strobe underwater and shot these at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it would look like that at each depth, because that's what a strobe does, is introduce the full spectrum of light very close to your subject. So what can we do about this if we don't want to bring strobes down? Well, it turns out that this color card has neutral gray in it, and if you white balance against neutral gray, right, these cards with the notches on it are what you white balance against. And I just select the W key, and then I click on that target, and presto, look at how much better that is. Let's go to 9 feet and do the same thing. Dramatic, before, after. 8 feet. 7 feet. 6 feet. 5 feet. 4 feet. Did you see how subtle that color correction was compared to the 10-foot color correction? That should tell you something. Let's see, 4 feet, and then we had 3, 2, 1. Surface. But there's one thing I want you to notice. Even though we color corrected, right, and we white balance these pictures, look at the red in this picture and how red it is, right? And then look at the one that we balanced at 4 feet and notice that it's just not quite as red. 5 feet is a bit less red, right? 7 feet, we're progressively losing red, even though the white balance is correct, right? That's 9 feet there and that's 10 feet there. Now look at that red at 10 feet looks gray. Why? Because the natural light has been filtered by the water so that the reds are almost all gone by 10 feet, right? So even if you use this technique to white balance your pictures without bringing strobes down, this is what happens. You lose those reds. And then next, you'll start to lose the oranges, the yellows, right? Roy G. Biv, you'll just work down the rainbow there and you'll filter those colors where, 12 feet your reds are all gone, and by, I think it's about 60 feet, pretty much all your colors are gone except blue. And so I want to just point that out to you, that that's 10 feet, look at the red. I'll zoom in so it's easier for you, right? Red at 10 feet. Red on the surface. That's an enormous difference, right? And then this was red at 1 foot, right? So you get good reds at 1 foot. So if you're going to shoot without a strobe, without a flash you're going to bring down, then you should really white balance at any depth by bringing down, and all I did to create that card was just printed that out and then had it laminated for 53 cents at Office Max, right? So now all of a sudden I've got neutral gray targets that I can just put in my picture, take a picture of, and then take my picture, right? So even though it won't introduce new colors, right, it will balance the colors out. Now a red filter works almost the same way, right? A red filter doesn't add red back into your pictures, right? It'll just balance the colors out to try to reintroduce a bit of red to bring that back in, but nothing will replace bringing a flash down with you. The next best thing you can do is white balance. After that is use the red filter over the front of your camera. Okay, now here's what you can do once you've gotten that white balance. Let me show you a quick trick. So, oh, sweet picture there, 1 feet, 2 feet maybe, right? So I get the white balance, right? Here's before and here's after, right? So let's say you're just going to take a picture of your kids underwater or just a shallow reef, right? Most stuff lives really close to the surface. I've pulled that white balance from the card for this first picture. Now what I can do is select all the pictures, click sync, make sure that white balance is selected, right? So I can unclick all this other stuff, synchronize, and all of a sudden all those pictures that were off color balance wise, all fantastic. Check that out. They're all color balanced now. So if you want to just take some shallow pictures, that's your best bet to actually get accurate white balance without having to do anything fancy, without having to get any strobes. Just stay shallow so your reds are still there a little bit. And I hope that shows you how you can deal with yellow balance, or how you can deal with white balance, how you can use a gray card, how you can make a gray card, right? And the difference it makes all the way down to 10 feet and below, right? So I hope that's getting you some great images. Leave me a comment in the discussion section about what else you'd like to see. I'd be happy to do it, and I hope that's helpful. Okay, so we brought our video into Final Cut Pro, and I understand that Final Cut Pro is a little bit of an investment, but if you're going to make these sort of detailed color corrections in a video, it's probably worth it. It really depends. It's about 300 bucks right now. So anyway, to make that color correction, we just start from the beginning. I'm going to click up here into the effects, scroll down under video to color, select, drag and drop color, on my video. At that point, you'll notice this color correction shows up, and I can now click on the color board. What you want to do is start under exposure. Now hit Command F, which will bring up your color scope. Right now it's on the vector scope, which isn't where I want to start. I actually want to start on the waveform. There we go. This shows me black at 0, white at 100. So I'm going to go over here. This is my shadow adjustment, which actually is pretty good because I got plenty down here in the zeros. This is my highlights, which I would like to bring up because I don't have much in the hundreds, right? And maybe a little bit of the midtones too. Okay, so now the range of my video goes from white to black. Maybe I'm going to bring down the black just a tiny bit. Okay, there we go. You want to do the exposure first and then go to color, because if you go in the opposite direction, you're going to have to balance color twice. So now we're under the color tab, and I'm going to switch from the luma into the vector scope. This line represents skin tones, and it just so happens we've got skin tones in this picture. So I want to try to push this display of where the colors are at up along this line where the skin tones are. So I'm going to start down here in the shadow section first. Not a whole lot there. Right, I'm just going to progressively go along and try to bump them up just a little bit. Right, too much looks fake. In fact, that might be just a little too much. It's important when you're doing this also that your monitor is color calibrated. So I'd recommend you doing that if you haven't already. Okay, so you might be thinking, I can go ahead and get rid of the vector scope now by hitting Command 7 again. And that brings this up, which is our video. And you might be thinking, hey, that doesn't actually look that fantastic, right? Let's take a look at the whole thing. You're thinking, hey, I still see that's a little bit off, right? I can tell that that's not perfect color. Well, I agree with you. But if I back out of full screen, what I can do now is show you, here's what it looks like with this color correction, and here's what it looks like without the color correction. Okay, so the range of color from white to black is a whole lot better this way, but also you notice that I've largely gotten rid of a lot of that blue tint to it and restored some of my skin tones. Now obviously I'm not introducing any light here, so I can't bring back those reds, but I can balance it out, much in the same way we balanced out the still images that we did. Great, so I hope that shows you how you can manage both still images and videos underwater to balance out, to get colors, how you can make your own color card very cheaply, and how you can use it in Photoshop and in Final Cut Pro in order to post-process your footage. I've actually included all the images as well as the video, corrected and uncorrected, in the additional resources section, so be sure to check them out so you can see for yourself what they look like.